Hi everyone, Wildcat here. In today's video, I'll finally be reviewing Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires released back in early 2022. If you're watching this video, I assume you know what Dynasty Warriors is, but if not, Dynasty Warriors is a hack and slash series of video games set in ancient China. The Empires games are a series of spin-off titles that throw some strategy and management aspects into the game. Instead of having a typical story mode, Empires games feature the sandbox Empire mode where you either work under a kingdom or rule your own kingdom. Before we dive into 9 Empires, I think it's important to briefly cover the game that it's based off of, Dynasty Warriors 9. Now, objectively, I would consider 9 to be one of the worst Dynasty Warriors games, and I think most fans feel the same. It's filled with glitches and bugs, the graphics don't look great, the open world is empty, the gameplay isn't very engaging, and the game is super repetitive. The game is just not good, despite what my tier list video says. With 9 not being great, 9 Empires can really only go up from there, and we've seen that trend before. Dynasty Warriors 6 Empires, for example, is a really good game, despite Dynasty Warriors 6 being one of the worst Warriors games. Would 9 Empires be able to make up the same jump in quality? I would say, kinda. 9 Empires is definitely better than 9, but I'm not sure how much better it is. Let's start with one of the most important features of any Empires game, Edit Mode, aka Character Creation. Edit Mode in 9 Empires is so frustrating. The word frustrating is gonna be a main theme in this video, just so you know. I should also mention that 9 Empires Edit Mode takes heavy inspiration from another one of Koei's games, Nioh 2. Let's go through character creation step by step so I can explain the good and the bad. To start, you choose your character's gender, skin color, and voice. Something I appreciate in 9 Empires is that there are 30 voice options per gender to choose from for your created character. This can be a big deal for players that like to create a lot of characters. For example, 8 Empires has 10 voices available for your character per gender with the ability to adjust pitch. So when you have over 100 created characters running around using the same voices, it really starts to feel repetitive. So 9 Empires does address that issue. Something that 9 Empires does worse than 8 Empires is body customization. Instead of being able to have a decent variety of body types, especially with height and weight, 9 Empires characters really just have all the same fit or skinny body. Next is facial customization, and this is one of the areas where 9 Empires really shines. Facial customization is deep, with options to customize the depth, height, width, angle, and spacing of almost every part of your character's face. A lot of the changes are subtle, but combined they can make a truly unique face. I could have spent so much time just getting a character's face exactly to fit my vision of them. Now it's no Black Desert Online, but it's really good as far as face customization goes. After that comes hair, another amazing part of the character creation in this game. Unlike many games where you just pick a set hairstyle, 9 Empires breaks hair down into multiple separate sections: the base hair, the fringe, the sides, and the tied up hair. Now, not every hairstyle lets you change these 4 things, but plenty of them do. Just like with faces, there are probably hundreds and hundreds of unique combinations that you can make to get the perfect hairstyle. You've also got a number of makeup, facial hair, and different accessory options too. So faces and hair are great, but the problems really start when you get to the clothing and armor, which are arguably the most important part of the character creation because they'll be what you're looking at most of the time. But let's start with the positives first. This is the first Empires game to have clothing be separate from armor. In theory, that's a really cool concept. It gives the potential to create really interesting and layered outfits for your character, like almost all actual Dynasty Warriors characters wear. You can also set your character to take off their armor when they're not in combat, which is nice for immersion. Unfortunately, that's where the positives stop. The first problem with the clothing and armor options is that there just simply isn't enough of either. There are about 12 types of clothing options and 12 types of armor options. You can mix and match tops with bottoms, but most of the time they don't look that great when they're mismatched. The developers also decided to waste some of the very limited clothing and armor slots on things that don't fit the setting whatsoever, like a schoolgirl outfit, samurai armor, and medieval knight armor. Now I understand that this is a video game and everything doesn't need to fit the setting, but there needs to be more realistic options to choose from before you waste time adding in these extra options. 8 Empires has these weird options too, but it felt like that game had enough realistic options to offset them. Now something else that I think is cool is that you can adjust some of the material, trims, and patterns of the clothing and armor. But yet again, I feel like there was just a lack of options in these categories to make it really meaningful. So yeah, I think the armor was a huge missed opportunity, and the developers really should have added more options into it. I think it's definitely possible to create good-looking, unique characters, but I don't think you can create many of them before the lack of options catches up with you. Overall, the edit mode in 9 Empires is disappointing, especially compared to 8 Empires. In 8 Empires, edit mode also allowed you to customize horses, troops, flags, and even entire scenarios for Empires mode. You could easily share all of these things for other players to download too. All of this is absent from 9 Empires, and it would have been great for the game, as one of the worst things about 9 Empires is that everything just starts to look the same after a little while. Now we'll move on to 9 Empires' only game mode, Conquest Mode, formerly known as Empires Mode. In Conquest Mode, you choose a time period of Dynasty warriors, choose your character, and set off on your journey to unite China. I've always thought of it as creating your own Dynasty Warriors story mode. Now Conquest Mode has 2 main phases, the strategy phase and the battle phase. On average, I'd guess I spent about 30% of my time in the strategy phase and 70% in the battle phase, give or take. So let's talk about the strategy phase first. The strategy phase is where you improve your character, build up your army, manage your supplies, recruit new officers, build relationships with others, and engage in diplomacy with other kingdoms. Each month you perform an action, and after 6 months, a war council takes place where you set your goals for the next 6 months that you can earn merit, which is essentially XP, for completing. I think the strategy phase is one of the strengths of this game. While it's very important that you keep up with your kingdom's troops and supplies, it's really not too difficult to do so. It's a nice balance for those that mostly care about battling, and those that actually want the kingdom management experience. There are ways to min-max your kingdom's supplies, or you can do the bare minimum and still mostly be okay, but you can't completely ignore it. There's also a decent variety of things to do as well, so you aren't just selecting the same exact action every single month. This is also helped by the goals you are assigned between war councils. The strategy phase is where you get to roleplay and shape your character how you want them to be. There are 6 different reputations that your character can level up, including brave, benevolent, and evil. Your reputation is determined by the different actions you take during the strategy phase. For example, if you pillage often, your evil reputation will grow. The reputation system affects how other officers perceive and interact with you. Your reputation also affects your character's title. Titles like hero or villain can give your character a unique action to use during the strategy phase or a unique tactic to use during the battle phase. The strategy phase is also where the game's open world comes into play, although it can be entirely ignored and probably should be. Borrowing the exact same open world from Dynasty Warriors 9, there's little reason to go out into the open world besides if you wanted to go hunting, sightseeing, or visit your house. Everything actually productive that you can do in the open world can also be done in the menus instead in a fraction of the time. Before we move on to the combat, I want to expand on my disappointment with the use, or lack thereof, of the open world in 9 Empires. In case you didn't know, I'll reiterate it. Dynasty Warriors 9 was not a good game. However, one of the exciting things about 9 was that since it was open world, there was the possibility of getting an open world Empires game. Picture this, an Empires game where everything on the map takes place in real time. Multiple battles going on across the map, free reign to order your army around to attack or defend other kingdoms. I know it sounds like I, and many other fans, were wishing for too much, but I believe the mechanics were already in place since battles are happening across the map in Dynasty Warriors 9. Unfortunately, we weren't so lucky, and the open world in Empires might as well not even be there. I know I'm delusional, but personally I blame the fact that the game released on Switch for not getting the Dream Empires game, as every other console besides the Switch probably could have handled a game like that. That's just speculation though. Okay, so clearly there's no open world battles, so what did we get instead? Sieges. Every single battle in this game is a siege. Your objective in every battle is to either break through the walls of a castle and defeat the enemy commander, or defend your own castle walls. And the map for every siege? A square with small camps dotted throughout. Now, if you've never played another Empires game, maybe this doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's really awful in comparison to other Empires games. In previous Empires games, to defeat the enemy army, you would have to navigate through battlefields filled with different paths, natural barriers, and other obstacles in your way. Battles were dynamic in that you would need to manage your army so that you don't lose bases on the other side of the map while you are far away. That element doesn't exist as much with 9 Empires because every map is a square that's usually not even that big, and you can just zoom around the map quickly and handle everything yourself. Now let's go into how battles actually play out. Throughout the battlefield there are a number of different bases that do different things. The most important bases to capture are bases that contain siege weapons like catapults, battering rams, or siege towers. These are your keys to breaking into the enemy's castle and then defeating their commander, ending the battle. You capture a base by defeating a certain number of enemy troops inside of it. Pretty simple. The last important part of battles are secret plans. There are 2 types of secret plans: personal secret plans and grand secret plans. Personal secret plans are small abilities or buffs for your character. For example, a skill to heal yourself or a skill to summon lightning to strike your enemy. These recharge after use, so you can use them multiple times throughout a battle. Then there are grand secret plans. These affect the entire battlefield and swing the battle in your favor or the enemy's favor. In a battle, each side will attempt to launch a grand plan, and it's up to you to disrupt the enemy's secret plan and make sure that yours succeeds. In my experience, it's pretty easy to always disrupt the enemy's grand plan. I'm not sure if an enemy was ever able to launch one against me. It can be a little tougher to ensure your own plan succeeds, since you usually have to defend certain bases or units. Still though, I maybe failed a secret plan once or twice. There are a decent variety of grand secret plans. Some examples are bringing in reinforcements, night raids that weaken enemy bases, and summoning elements like lightning or fire to strike the battlefield and your enemies. Grand secret plans are probably the most interesting part of battles in this game. They aren't really unique to 9 Empires though, as there were similar mechanics in 7 Empires and 8 Empires. Moving on from the battles, I want to mention the cool family mechanic in this game. So, in 9 Empires, you can get married and have a child. Something I do have to applaud the developers on is their attention to detail when it comes to the family relationships. If your character comes across someone related to them, that person will recognize you and already have a positive relationship with you. This extends even as far to aunts and uncles, which is really cool. I should also mention the cutscenes in this game. They are interesting, I guess. I mean, some of them are pretty bad, but at least they do add some funny moments to your playthrough. And that's really all there is to talk about for 9 Empires. To end off this video, I think a glitch I ran into in one of my battles just about perfectly sums up my feelings for this game. In this footage you're seeing here, I was on the verge of winning a somewhat lengthy battle against Yuan Shu. As I'm comboing him to death, he suddenly gets stuck on a random building on the map and phases into it. Yuan Shu is very close to death inside of the building, but I can't really land consistent hits on him. This isn't really an issue though, since I can just slowly lower his health, until I realize that he has a secret plan to heal himself. Each time I very slowly and painfully get Yuan Shu back to low health, he heals himself again. This continued for 5 minutes until I finally got so frustrated that I quit the battle, meaning I lost. This was one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had in a Warriors game, and that's exactly how I feel about this game too. 9 Empires was almost there. It had the potential to really be one of the best Warriors games ever. The character creation was so close to being great, but it fell short. The battles, while they aren't horrible, are pretty repetitive thanks to the siege system and all the square maps. The decision to not utilize the open world in a meaningful way was very disappointing. Just like me being so close to killing Yuan Shu, this game was so close to greatness. That being said, 9 Empires is still a relatively good Warriors game. It's still up there with the likes of 7 Empires and 5 Empires, which are 2 of my favorite Warriors games. And like I mentioned at the beginning, it is better than Dynasty Warriors 9, so there's that. I do recommend this game for any Warriors fan. It's good enough to be worth a shot. So that's all I have for this one. Let me know your thoughts on Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like or subscribe, and check out my other Warriors videos. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.